What's up, Ramblers? Before we get into today's podcast, make sure you're following us on YouTube at Assistance HQ to never miss an update. Check out exclusive behind the scenes footage of the episode and so much more. And before we start, a quick break. Hey guys, welcome back. I told you I'd be just popped up back on live for the podcast, so that's for the edit. I told them, I'd go from the pre to this so everyone sees it. So welcome. This is Ariana.
Hello.
So tell us, introduce yourself to the podcast. This is for the ramblings. This is for my YouTube. Let everyone know who you are.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Ariana Arroyo. I am a sociology major at CCSU. I'm also 21, and I am a podcast influencer as well. My podcast is called Jewel Space. Jewel Space is a safe space for women of color, or just women in general. Just come, listen, and we talk about social issues on self-love, and topics that, some people don't like talking about. I know I recently did a controversial topic about rape culture, and honestly, I know it didn't get as much listenings, but I know that it'll get some sooner or later. I like to be raw and authentic.
Okay. So what made you go into this particular space, why'd you create this?
Well, the name Jewel, Jewel Space is my niece. It's named after my niece. My niece is 3. She's like my baby and everything else. I did it for her. I wanted to, because self-love should be taught when kids are young. You know what I mean? Right. When I was in school, I started off a sociology major and not sociology, I'm sorry, psychology. And learning for lifespan and development. When kids are young and you don't have very nurturing background, they develop certain issues that will basically set them up for failure as they get older because of not nurturing properly, family dynamic, or trauma. I always had a gift of helping people. And, me being in school right now, I'm into my senior year this upcoming fall. After I'm done with my bachelor's, I'm going to go to get my degree in graduate school to become an art therapist and work with foster kids. So I always had a gift of working with people with trauma. So I thought that maybe prepare myself now before I get to that space when I do enter graduate school.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
So how long have you been into this? Has this always been something you wanted to do?
Not really. I started Jewel Space, I'll say 2019. I didn't take it as seriously as I'm doing now since we've been quarantined. How would I say this? I was so busy with school and stuff like that. So it was hard for me to have the time. But now that I'm home, I'm able to actually make, certain episodes. And honestly, I got the inspiration because of I was recording myself, a video recording for myself for a class on colorism. Okay. Colorism is a big topic that you're going to hear so much on my podcast and even when I create my YouTube channel. Wow. But for my class for race and media, I was recording because I had to present it to my classmates via social media and stuff. And I'm making these little voice snippets and I'm like, oh shoot, my voice sounds really cool. And that's when I went on Facebook and I did a status and do you think I should make a podcast? And I got a lot of positive feedback, especially from one particular person. He actually motivated me to do it. So shout out to Twan, because he really helped me, motivated me to get where I needed to be and where I am right now with Jewel Space.
Okay. So you said that there was a point where it was for, your niece and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So why do a podcast then if it's for her?
Because I want to speak my truth. I want to be authentic. People who know me know that I'm real and I speak my mind. And this is for me, it's therapeutic because it is me having a voice for myself. I suffered from self-esteem issues, not loving myself, not being confident with myself, and allowing people to walk all over me. So with this podcast, I'm able to finally speak up for myself on certain issues I was afraid to speak up before. I know that some people are going to have opinions against it, but honestly, I don't care. I feel like I need to say my truth, and if people don't like it, well, oh well, that's them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel the same way. That's kind of why I started this. I wanted my voice to be heard too. So, you said that colorism is a big topic in your podcasts and everything. Explain that. Why is colorism going to be something that plays a big role in your podcast?
Because I'm biracial, I'm half Black, half Puerto Rican, and I always been interested in social issues, which hence why I'm a sociology major. And I feel like there's a stigma when it comes to the Black community, especially with women. There's a lot of women that are against each other, and I see it a lot through social media, especially Facebook and Instagram. It's a lot of comparison, it's a lot of drama, it's a lot of all of that, and we have people base their preferences on skin color. And I personally, I'm like mixed, and I look light skinned. So I fall into that category of light skin privilege. Do I agree with it? No, I don't agree with it, because that's where the society and oppression back in slavery time make you want to choose like white is better. Having European features is better. And I've seen that with a lot of light-skinned women feel like they're better than dark-skinned women. And I see certain controversy with certain YouTubers calling dark-skinned women roaches, dirty, ghetto. I know in my podcast and also in the presentation I did for that class, I shed light on this YouTube couple. I don't know if you heard of them, Damien and Bianca. And there was a controversy video, two controversies. One, they had a baby girl, and the first thing they said after the baby girl was born,
Oh, I think
she's dark. You know what I mean?
I think I've seen that video.
And then the second controversy video would be her painting herself in blackface. That stereotypical ghetto ratchet girl. If you see the video, you're gonna be disgusted, because honestly, it was crazy. And to me, I feel like the lack of knowledge of colorism is so important for people to know, especially me being like mixed and like, biracial. One thing that cringes me out the most when, like, for example, if a guy tries to talk to me and I tell them like, oh, what's I'm mixed with, once they hear Puerto Rican, that's all they hear. They're like, oh, you're half Puerto Rican? Oh, that's a fire mix. And to me, that's a basic mix, because there's so many people who are half Black, half Puerto Rican, you know what I mean, in this world. I'm not the only one, but because I have Spanish and, I'm attracted to like Black men, some Black men will see the Spanish part and not acknowledge that rather than my Black side, you know what I mean? And that's why I feel like colorism is a big thing. Culturally, I'm more Hispanic than I am Black, because I grew up in a Spanish household, but I like to tackle issue in the color community, especially in urban dynamic, because I grew up in the city. I grew up in, New Haven. I grew up in the projects and stuff like that. I've seen a lot, you know what I mean? I've seen a lot. And I feel like that's why colorism and social issues and that's why I want to speak my truth on it. And also with self-love and self-healing, because there's a lot of self-love, self-healing that people need to do to get where they need to get.
Okay. So how do you feel you relate to these different communities, being, being mixed, being, Black and Puerto Rican, but being raised in Spanish? How does the cultural differences and the mixture of both, play into your daily life, in obstacles?
Well, my mom always taught me how to love myself. You know what I mean? I took me a lot, because being mixed, it's a hard identity to identify which culture can you identify. Growing up, I did not like to acknowledge that I was Black. I just didn't. When I was like, I'll say elementary and middle school, I did not acknowledge it at all, because I grew up in I went to was a Catholic school, and they were all predominantly Spanish and white, small percentage of Black. So when I used to see girls who were like, Ecuadorian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, any Spanish, they have pin straight hair, you know what I mean? and I didn't relate to that at all. So that's why I didn't acknowledge my Black side. I wanted to straighten my hair. I would wear my hair in like, buns all the time. And even home, I'm the darkest in my immediate family. My grandmother would call me negrita, meaning little black girl. But I know that she doesn't know. She's old school, old school Puerto Ricans, even back then living in Puerto Rico time, don't know much, you know what I mean? So I don't really, get mad at her because she had no knowledge of like, microaggressions, colors microaggressions. And also my grandfather's brother would call me spaghetti because of my curly hair. And again, that's another colorist microaggression, but they didn't know. So I think it took me until I was in high school, went to a predominantly Black high school. That's when I learned how to acknowledge both races, because that school taught of social issues and at like for just a high school. So I was learning stuff I never learned about before. And to me being a sociology major and knowing the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality, I embrace both. I feel like why choose when you can have both instead of just being one, you know what I mean? Yes, racially I am Black, ethnicity I am, African American and Puerto Rican, and nationality I'm American. That's just who I am as a person, and I accept all of me, not some of me. So that's one reason.
Okay, wow. You got a lot going on and you're doing a lot of things, So you said it's been taken off, since quarantine started and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What's been like your best piece or best work that you've done during this quarantine so far?
I'll say my first episode. I say my intro, and you're getting played, sis. You're both getting played. So I did that one because I want to share a light of girls falling into love triangles. I've been in there. I really been in a love triangle.
Okay, love triangles like he likes someone else, or like
no love triangles as in like he has a girlfriend. He knows he has a girlfriend, but he didn't tell you he had a girlfriend. Then you get a phone call from an angry girlfriend and text message and stuff like that.
Okay. That kind of the messy one.
The messy one. So okay. I found a article that talked about it, and honestly, I liked how this blog post said it because, you have these two girls fighting for each other. Actually, no. Let me start back from the beginning. Yaya Mayweather. That really got me my inspiration to make that.
Who's that?
Because so Yaya Mayweather is NBA YoungBoy, so-called my wife. You talking about my wife? Okay. So that is for her being 19, mm-hmm. and for her to really throw her life away for a guy, and basically take and take a life, because she did the girl that she stabbed, she did lose her baby. You know what I mean? So. And she's facing 99 years in prison. Because, Texas law, it ain't no joke. You know what I mean? Like, I know because, my ex, was like fighting a case that in Texas for, a small amount of weed. And he was facing up to 4 years, like 4 to 3 years. So Texas is no joke. So that's why I did it. So when I shared my story, I've been in a love triangle before, most definitely. It was in high school. I met this guy, you know what I mean? He was cool and whatever, but he was just very manipulative. Yeah. And he would have me, well, people who know me know I don't do crazy sexual acts, but with him, he opened the door. He opened that door because I was like, oh, he really likes me. Let me just do it. Okay, that's the rule number one of loving yourself. Don't let someone, force you to do something that you're not comfortable with, because that's just it. And after that, a couple months later, his girlfriend just kept stalking me, kept harassing me, even my star 69 numbers. And we're seniors in high school, so why? And she threatened me to expose me, because I guess I sent him a picture of my lace bra, really a lace bra, but she was dragging it, and she wanted to fight me. People who know me, I'm not a fighter. I'm not gonna fight nobody for a man. That's just childish, not ladylike. Like me, I'm all about divine feminine energy. Okay, why fall into that category? Just, you gotta level up, don't level down. And you know what I mean? And I feel like that's where women need to understand their divine feminine energy, be classy and stuff like that. Like, I watched this YouTube channel called Miss Feminine. I shouted her out, and I like that she liked some of my videos too, my content on Instagram. And she talked about it. You don't see Lori Harvey doing that, fighting. You don't see, Sierra are doing that, Beyonce, Rihanna. They're like beautiful women of color who are unapologetic. They're unbothered. You know what I mean? So that's where women need to tap into that mindset. And I understand, with Lori Harvey, she gets backlash as a hoe or whatever. But honestly, she's being her own woman. She's single. She can do whatever she wants, and she's just being herself. I don't feel like, because we don't know behind closed door. You don't know if she slept with like all these guys that the media took a picture of. You don't know what goes behind closed door, but we assume because we live in a very judgmental society. So that's why I feel like women shouldn't fight each other over a man, knowing he's just sitting back and and acknowledging it because he got both his cake and ice cream at the same time. And he knows that if those girls are gonna continue, and he ain't gotta do nothing, because he'll be like, oh, well, I got her Wednesday, I got her Friday. It don't matter to me. I just got both. So that's why I really talk about it.
Wow. So you've been on the move and busy. So what do you have upcoming? Like, what are you currently working on?
Well, I'm currently working on, I'm gonna do like the femininity one, but I want to learn more about femininity. I'm gonna talk about mass incarceration. I'm reading a new book called The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration and Colorblindness. And I think I'm going to tap that into my male audience because it's an issue in the Black community, especially Hispanic community. And reading that book, and it's so crazy that it says 3 out of 4 Black men, young Black men in America, will already have a record on them off the rep. And that causing, and we're living in a time where we have a terrible president. Because if you think about the US Constitution, if you are a criminal, you can't be eligible to vote. And that's what, and the author made a good point of that's where the system of New Jim Crow is preventing us from voting because of the high demands of mass incarceration. So I want to talk about that, and more so on trauma. You know what I mean? Trauma. I know a little verbatim, but another reason why I started Jewel Space is because I too went through a traumatic experience as well. And I talked about rape culture. And I feel like rape culture is a big issue that people need to understand, because as women and men, I'm not going to exclude men, but it's more common for women than men because, when people think of men, and that's where the toxic masculinity come in, they be like, why are you acting like a baby about it? You know what I mean? So that's, I will more tap into the man portion of rape culture, but as far as like women, I want to tap into more is because it really messes up people psychologically. It really does. It really, really does. It messed me up because, I am a victim of sexual assault and being raped in college, and I was 19. So for not loving yourself, myself the past 4 years, I developed very terrible habits. And, I go to therapy. I say therapy is another good step to finding yourself and getting that professional help, because once you go to therapy, you're able to tackle traumas that you didn't even know that happened because your subconscious suppresses it. So below that, only time it will come out is when you have a panic attack and you do not want one. I had one at work. It was very, very terrible. And, when people go through certain traumas like that, they develop negative habits such as drinking, smoking, and even being promiscuous. And I feel like people don't really talk about promiscuity because they think that just because a girl is a hoe and she's having sex, they think that, oh, it's because she wanted it. You don't know what she has gone through, like psychologically growing up, because either she could have been molested, she could have been raped, or she just didn't love herself. Those are the 3 common things. And I asked my therapist, why is it that I took the alternative being promiscuous rather than being, afraid to have sex? And she said, those are 2 defense mechanisms that people go through. Some people don't want to have sex at all, or some people become promiscuous. And that's where I went wrong. I became promiscuous. I kept looking for love in the wrong places. And when I had these, relations with these guys, I just didn't know how to. I kept wondering, like, why did it feel good just for the moment, but once they leave, I had a hole in my chest. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why I created Jewel Space, to talk about like issues like that no one wants to talk about, because these are topics that people are afraid to talk about, and because people are afraid of getting judged about when it comes to sex. But honestly, we need to talk about it, and we need to like talk about sexual health, because it's really, really important. Dangerous out here.
When you do that episode, certainly send that over. I'd love to feature that on the podcast and everything.
Okay.
So when you do that, certainly send that over, and I'll make sure I put that out, because I'd love to listen to it and everything.
Yeah.
Personally, because me myself, not a victim of just, me being foolish. My story is I was in Pennsylvania and I'm driving and everything, so I got pulled over. I was only doing like 85, so I got pulled over and I had a small amount of marijuana on me. And what I didn't know is that Pennsylvania, it's completely illegal out there. So I thought it was going to be a ticket, and it wasn't. Thankfully, it wasn't, it didn't end up in an incarceration, but it still is something that was on my record.
Did you get it out?
Not yet. It's
not yet. You're still working on it.
Still waiting for the time to come out, which is really why I'm big on being an entrepreneur, especially in urban communities, because it provides an alternative, especially for people that have been incarcerated, to have an opportunity, because now it gives you the chance to set your own boundaries, set your own standards, and use applied knowledge versus relying on, say, like the numbers and letters behind a degree, which you have to do at an application for a job.
Yeah. And honestly, that's where like the system failed us, because especially with Black men, and I tell people this all the time, and I actually told my dad, because my dad's a lawyer. He's on this big thing because he takes on clients because he's a defense attorney who are fighting certain cases like that, and he tells me all the time that why do certain people make these certain mistakes or becoming drug dealers and want to make get easy money. You have to understand the dynamic of people's environment. Socioeconomic statuses really make or break somebody. If you grew up in a different neighborhood, like if you're just like, middle class Black family in a really nice suburban neighborhood, of course you're gonna have better chances of being successful. But if you grew up in a urban dynamic where it's poverty and drugs and gang violence, you're gonna get caught up into that, because that's what you're used to. That's where easy money, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's where it fails us in the Black community, because we don't like to acknowledge that. And also another issue I feel like we need to work on in the Black community is supporting each other. I feel like
I agree.
I feel like we like to be, our own person, which is okay. But there's a difference between becoming your own person or being a hater and being jealous and just not acknowledging. You know what I mean? It's really sad of how many people died because of that, for that jealousy and stuff that.
Okay, I was like, what do you mean people die from haters?
No, just like for jealousy. Like there was an entrepreneur in Baltimore, the girl who owned her hair store. Jealous people shot her in her head and she was 21. You know what I mean? Think of Nipsey, shot him too. You know what I mean? There's a lot of haters, and but I feel like that's where oppression plays a big role psychologically, and we forget that this is what the white man wanted us many years ago during slavery time, because that's where colorism play a key part, because I see more division in colorism and with women being on social media than men. And I get it. I really do. I get everyone's point, but there's like a time and a place to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. And that's why I felt like we need to come together and really support each other. And that's what another aspect of Jewel Space is, woman empowerment and supporting each other. I posted, I think, about 3 pictures about I made of women empowerment and stuff and supporting each other, because once you have girls on your side that support you, you know, you'll see an incredible amount of support, and you see so many things have to happen. You know what I mean? And women have to be entrepreneurs, because, you know what I mean, who wants to work for like a corporate office? And that's where the glass ceiling effect, and, you know, where the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to women's rights are Black women. And it's sad, but that's where we have to come together and become entrepreneurs, because if we don't, we are just looking up in the glass ceiling, and we'll never get to the top where we need to be.
Okay. So you mentioned social media and everything.
Yes.
I'm big on social media. A lot of people would say they aren't the same person that they are on social media as they are off social media. How would you say social media has now grown to be the norm? And I'm gonna say, out on a limb, and you can respond to it however you want. Who you are on social media is who you are off social media. And I don't care what you say, because it's not like social media changes who you are or what you even really talk about. The things you talk about on social media are the things you talk about with your friends in real life. And you would make those same jokes with your group of friends in your house over, you know, a drink or a blunt, or, you know, watching the game and everything. The same comments you'd make about Tom Brady with your friends watching the Super Bowl like in the house are the same comments you're gonna make on Facebook. And so I'm like, Facebook doesn't make you do anything different. So what are your thoughts on social media and the culture today?
Social media is I agree, but also it's a fantasy. You're selling a fantasy, just like advertisement. You're selling a fantasy. Yes, you know, you have certain, like, for example, I'll say certain influencers who are non-Black with their racist comments. If they said it back then, they're racist in real life. You know what I mean? I'm not excluding that. But sometimes people like to present a fantasy, like with Instagram models. I used to believe that Instagram models had all the money. They weren't renting houses or, like, you know, for Airbnbs for a short time. They actually lived there because that's what they were showing. But unfortunately, as I got into more social media, I knew that was fake. And especially with going to Dubai, you know, Instagram models like to fly out to a fantasy of, like, you know, of going to Dubai. And Dubai is expensive. You know what I mean? By you just showing pictures of your, you know, your body and stuff like that, I doubt that you're able to, like, income-wise, if you're not working income-wise, you're not gonna have a lot of money to go to Dubai. You know what I mean? And that's why I say it feels the same fantasy. And I didn't know that until I heard, like, one story about this specific Instagram model. And her friend met this person who had money in Dubai. And the only way he was gonna fly them out if she would, like, the friend would do sexual acts on him and his camel. Which is, like, that's what I'm saying. It was just bestiality, and it was just so weird. But that girl and her friend went. Like, they went to Dubai and did that. And you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. They're showing all these good pictures of them, like, oh, on vacation, living life, but that they're living a fantasy. And that's where a lot of girls who have self-esteem issues like to compare themselves. I know I've been there, and I'm not excluding myself. I want to have an Instagram body. I want to have, you know, perfect teeth, you know, perfect hair, all this stuff. And that's where I feel like it's a fantasy, because you're selling yourself to look an image, to look a certain way, but you don't know what goes behind closed door. And that's where, like, you know, mental health, you know, plays a big role. Like Orlando Brown, you know what I mean? He's a perfect example of selling a fantasy because of the rise of social media and him being a child star. When you think, and look what happened, when you think of Orlando Brown, he's, you know, has a lot of social issues. And that's where a lot of people go wrong with social media, because you're selling a fantasy and you're not authentic. You know what I mean? Because that's what I did to get likes. I know that Right, like
really
before, just to, yeah,
I mean,
like before.
think about it. Think about it like this: if you rented an Airbnb and you're renting different Airbnbs, you're still renting. That's your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is you rent Airbnbs for Instagram. Like, think about that. Like, that's someone's lifestyle.
Yeah, but for them to advertise it as I bought this house, come on now.
That's okay. That's different. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's
That's what
100%
I'm
a lie.
saying. So that's
But
what I'm
if they're
saying.
not, I don't. Are they really presenting it as I bought this house, or I can be in this kind of house? You feel me? Like I am at the status of the ability to be in this house.
I mean, when you put it that way, I agree. But I still say it's there's still some, so I'm not saying all. I'm not saying all, I'm saying some. Cause I know some people, someone who's listening to your podcast gonna be like, oh, she's saying all, like, no. I'm saying some. Again, some people, some Instagram models and stuff like that like to throw out that fantasy. And with the rise of social media, yes, it's amazing because back growing up, we weren't able to get news source or contents like we are through now in viral videos, which I praise social media. But being a sociology major and looking at the negative aspects of social media, it does causes a lot of problems, especially with fake news, fake articles.
Okay.
When people read like clickbaiting, for example, clickbaiting, you'll see as a specific, it will say a headline and be like, oh my God, that's a really interesting, but you click on the link, it's something totally different. And that's where those marketing places make their money. How many clicks, how many shares. That's why you have to be careful when you go on Facebook, Instagram, everything. You have to fact check. Shout out to Lovely T because she's also a good influencer, entrepreneur, Black woman who put out quality content. And her thing is fact check, fact check, fact check, because she doesn't like putting out contents that
I love how you
are fake. She basically posts on Instagram articles that certain media sources are afraid to do, like the Shade Room, Hollywood Unlocked. She doesn't care. She rather tell people the truth than anything else. And she's been talking about certain issues with, Bill Gates and, that vaccine chip and stuff like that. Him pushing that, even though he's not a doctor. You don't see other media sources posting that and stuff like that. And even with 5G, the 5G incident of the conspiracy of 5G with the coronavirus, you know what I mean? Certain articles are saying, oh, it's a hoax and this and the third. Some articles are saying, oh, it's real, it's real. That's why you have, as you know, because we're all journalists, even in our little way, beauty sides, everything else. Right. We're all citizen journalists. We have to really be smart and really fact check everything, because once you say something and have people believe it, and it's not true, then you're gonna have more backlash and stuff like that.
Definitely.
So that's where the pros and cons of social media. It's good, but sometimes it can be bad, and that's just media in general.
I agree. It's been a rise. So talk about your rise as an entrepreneur. You were a sociology major. However, as an entrepreneur, talk about your hustle, from bartending to being able to have to do school, to like talk about everything, like the most busy you've had to do and hustle and jumble and do everything. What's your
I would say school is the hardest to juggle with everything else. I can do Jewel Space and not even be like upset or stressed. I can work at like a full jam-packed night on a Saturday and Friday night at Red Lobster and not break a sweat because, I got this. I've been doing this for 2 years. As far as school, it depends on certain professors and certain, stuff like that. Because me and math are not the best. We're just like water and oil. We just don't mix. And, it's hard. It's hard for me to, stay focused because I want to work on Jewel Space rather than do my work. But I have to be like Ariana. you're a junior. You need to, you got 2 more years. And then you go to grad school and then you're done. So I really have to stay, like, procrastination is like the enemy.
I say
a lot. And
I gotta ask, you're saying grad school and everything, and on this podcast, we are notorious for hating college. I'm doing my 2 years, it's whatever. However, we on this podcast frown upon, I don't even know if that's a real word, like frown upon though people in doing the grad school, all the way up to grad school. I'm not going to be mad at you if you're already in school and you're like, you know what, I'm going to finish. But you're doing grad school as well. So you have to explain yourself. Why school? Because we notorious here as entrepreneurs are saying, you know what, you don't need school. I can't cuss on this podcast, but school.
The reason why I'm in school is because, I'm going to be honest, I say because of my family. They have pushed me, especially my dad. My dad is a entrepreneur, self-efficient Black man who is a lawyer, you know what I mean, who came from nothing growing up in Albany, New York, could have been the typical, stereotypical, Black man who was in the streets. He almost went there, but his, salvation story is his grandfather was a reverend at our family church, who helped mold him to become a youth minister, use his voice. Because my dad can sing. Like, I didn't know that, but my dad could really sing, like, gospel music. Like, he's really, really good. And he always says, power is knowledge. And he always tells me, you always got to compete with, and I don't want to, single out, certain races, but this is his quote, guys, not mine. You have to be more successful than the Asians, the whites, and the Indians. Again, that's his quote, guys, not mine.
I'm gonna let that pass because my dad's Black, so he's saying it's like it's my podcast. I can let that roll. So
yeah. So he and my mom always pushed me to be the best, and also the reason why I'm in school is because before my grandfather passed away, I will say, in my immediate family, I'm his only granddaughter that's in college, that actually is in college and didn't give up in whatever. And before on his deathbed, he told me, and this is my nickname, guys. So they call me Mookie, and he was like, Mookie, I want you to be successful. I want you to make a difference. Please, please, please finish school. Be the best and be the first in our family to have a college degree, to go far in school and stuff like that. So that's one reason why I'm in, undergrad and going to graduate school. And the reason why I'm going to graduate school is because my undergrad program doesn't have art therapy. So I have to go to graduate school to get that degree. You know what I mean? Okay. It's a new degree. And I'm going to Albertus, and Alberta has like the best art therapy program in the country. And, I'm from New Haven, so I can just 10 minutes to drive over there. And once I'm done, I'll take a break and then go back to school because I'm going to get my PhD in sociology, and because I want to make
now you're talking. Okay, we already said we frown upon college. You said you're going to grad school, and now you said you done try to sneak in PhD on us. That's like that's a lot of years. That's a lot of years.
I know it's a lot of years, but honestly, for me being the first woman in my family to have a college degree and get my PhD and do the reason why I want to get my PhD and be in sociology is because I'll be able to do case studies to help and help people understand the certain social issues. If you think about W.E. Du Bois, he was a sociologist. I didn't know that. I did not know that at all until I went to my sociology degree.
You just taught me something.
That's what I'm saying. He was a sociologist, and his work was on social structure in the Black community. That's why people, and if you think about in the Black community, people even in the early 1900s, people respected the W.E. Du Bois rather than Booker T. Washington, because they had different opinions, you know what I mean? And I watched the self-made miniseries. Even though they said it wasn't really accurate, but the way that they portrayed Booker T. Washington, he didn't believe in women. Well, that's how they portray him. But like in the show, they made Booker T. Washington believe like, you know, women couldn't do, they had no place. This was a man's world. So, but when you know, C.J. Walker, when she met W.E. Du Bois, he praised her. You know what I mean? He praised her, and he said that he introduced himself. She wanted to introduce herself to him, but he said, no, like, I'm introducing myself to you because your work and doing for, like, you know, women of color with hair care products back then is amazing. So that's why I feel like,
I love that music.
Yes, that's why I feel like, you know, me becoming a sociologist and doing case studies on real issues, I feel like I can help broaden the knowledge, just like W.E. Du Bois using his theories, and then more sociologists using his theories, because it's like a recycling. You know, you can have a theory, but someone can take your theory and broaden it and make it better. So it's like a domino effect. And that's what I want to do, especially in the Black community. If we can get more, you know, sociologists or more people in STEM, you know how much we can take back, you know, that power and status in America. I know you guys frown upon, you know, college and stuff like that, but
if it's necessary, unless it's necessary. Like if you want to be like if your life goal, your own personal, not your parents, personal.
Yeah.
If your personal goal was to be like a doctor, then you got to go to school, obviously. Like, go to school. If you are going to be a sociologist and everything, and you're going to like do like case studies, and you have to go get a PhD to do case studies, and that's what you want to do, then you gotta do school for that. So we can't be mad at you for pursuing your dreams and going because you have to go to school for it. That's just part of the process. But if you didn't know, that'd be different. So
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, college, if we didn't have to pay for college, honestly, if we were like Canada, because, you know, Canada got everything, free healthcare, you know, free college tuition, even though people frown about at Canada, if America wasn't as greedy and built on bloodshed and power and, you know, genocide, that's, you know, I feel like our interpretation of college would be better. And also, like I said, you know, you don't have to go to college to be successful. You really don't. You know what I mean? I'm going because I want to go to college. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. That's just my personal, even though my parents wanted to, you know, push college for me, they didn't push sociology for me. They didn't push that at all. My dad wanted to be a lawyer. And I was like, no, I do not want to be a lawyer. That's him. That's not me. My story of falling in love with sociology was I had a professor who, you know, she is Latina, you know what I mean? And she talked about real stuff, and she talked about, you know, sociological issues in America with opioid, you know, pandemic of you know, popping pills to get high. You know how many overdose and stuff like that? I didn't know that was a sociological issue. Another thing, immigration. She talked about it. And lastly she talked about this, you know, woman of color. Her name was Henrietta Lacks. She was a Black woman. And basically the story goes is that her cells are still alive to this day, even though she died like during the 1940s. And because of she was Black, and, you know, it was a time where white people just love taking certain things away from Black people, they harvest her cells, did not give her family the money that they made, because her cells basically help cure polio. That would and certain diseases, you know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to become a sociologist, because issues like that just pisses me off.
That needs to be a podcast right there.
Yeah, like you could listen. If you ever want to read Henrietta Lacks, I have the book. You know, I got it from school. It's a really good book, and it's mind blowing of how much her you know, where she needed to get help in the medical field. Because again, this is another issue for another podcast. But for her to get the help that she needed, and the racism, and like even now that racism in like the Black community when it comes to health still exists to this day, even it's just something that I feel like needs to be addressed, which is why I want to become a sociologist, because like stuff like that just needs to be addressed, and it just pisses me off.
Wow. High five for that. So.
Yep.
Wow. This has been a wonderful time. We're definitely gonna have to have you back as you continue to update and get more things done and everything. So definitely don't forget to send that podcast my way when you finish that.
Yeah, I'm working on a manuscript like right now, so I can, DM you and stuff like that, or you can just text me and we just can go back and forth, stuff like that.
All right, so definitely let me know, and we're all good for this. So
thank you guys for having me.
We're all welcome. So, we're international. All right, so I'm gonna. Hey Ramblers, before you go, make sure you're following us on social media at Assistance HQ across the board for all content and exclusives. And for an even more personal touch, subscribe to our weekly newsletter with the link in the description.